Now it's time to welcome our next guest, Dee Carter, president of Carter Financial Group in Midland, Texas. Dee is also the author of the book, It's Now or Never: How to Enjoy Your Life and Not Let Your Investments Own You. Dee, of course, a great friend of the income generation, a repeat guest here on the show, and most importantly, for me at least, a very close personal friend. So Dee, thanks so much for being with us again on the income generation.
I appreciate the invitation, David, and I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much.
You know, of course, I love, now for our viewers there, you notice how he says, I appreciate the compliment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And if you look at the photo that's behind Dee right over his head and the guitars, you'll know that we've talked about this in a previous show, and I'm not going to waste time today because we have too many important things to talk about. But in a previous show, we actually talked about that one of Dee's greatest hobbies is being an Elvis impersonator. And you could tell when Dee says, thank you very much. But let's talk about income. Let's talk about the Retirement Income Store. Let's talk about the book, The Retirement Income Story. The book isn't out until really 2 weeks after the recording of this show was the launch date of the book. But you told me that you read it. So tell me where you think the Retirement Income Story is really going to benefit the reader, the average income generation member watching the show.
It's going to be a waking up for them. They've never seen anything quite like this. In fact, one of the points you make in the book is that we're probably the most uniquely qualified group right now to do what we're doing because we're the only ones doing it. Your career and my career and the income thing kind of dovetail. We started about the same time getting into income products, but I didn't really get into it really well until I got with the Advisors Academy. But I will say this, when someone reads it, they're going to find things there they've never heard before because nobody has been talking about income. They've talked about it, but they didn't really know how to do it. So this is the way that people can learn not only what it is and how it works, but where to go to get the source for the problems they have.
You know, I hate to say, if I say, Dee, that you're one of the franchisees of the Retirement Income Store, that is true, but I hate to say that because it almost is a disservice. The reality of it is, you've helped me carry the income flag now for many, many years, from the time that you read my first book, Stop Financial Insanity, and then your lovely bride, Susan, went ahead and read the book, and I remember the comment. Do you want to share her comment with our viewers?
Yeah, I would be happy to. I read the book over a period of over Friday afternoon, Friday evening, and gave it to my wife, who makes a lot better decisions than I do most of the time. And I said, would you mind reading this and giving me your input? And she read the book that weekend, brought it back to me Sunday afternoon, and said, you really need to go talk to this guy. He sounds like the brother of another mother. So that's the reason I called you back. I wasn't going to wait for your telephone call to me. I felt it was more important for me to get hold of you because what she said was absolutely dead on right. And I appreciate her more than you can possibly know, but I appreciate you for sending me that book and just taking the chance on me, which I do appreciate very much.
No, and it's great to have you as part of the team there in Texas. When you take a quick commercial break, we come back, we're going to talk more about the book, we're going to talk more about the income store. But Dee, one of the things I want to do is just something a little fun that's kind of off topic. And it's not about Elvis impersonation at all. It's really just about what your thoughts are. Maybe you could share with our viewers in one of the segments what it's like to actually write a book, since you wrote a best-selling book yourself. So stay with us. We'll be back here with more on the income generation. I'm David Scranton, and I'm with Dee Carter, and we'll be right back. Now it's time to welcome back our good friend Dee Carter, president of Carter Financial Group in Midland, Texas, and author of the book, It's Now or Never: How to Enjoy Your Life and Not Let Your Investments Own You. Dee, thanks again for sticking around.
My pleasure. Thank you.
So I'm going to put you on the spot now. I'm fishing for compliments here is what I'm doing, right? This is like when Susan comes to you before you're ready to go out to dinner together and she says, honey, how do I look tonight, right? Fishing for a compliment. So now I'm going to fish for a compliment and ask you to tell our income generation viewers, if you don't mind, identify for me one or two parts of the book that you liked the best, that you thought were maybe the most impactful.
And that's an interesting question because I've heard we've been together for so long now. You and I have discussed this on times before, but when I read it in the book, it kind of jumped off the page. One that really got me quickly was the fact that most people that are interested in retirement or investing have been hearing the same story year after year after year for as many years as I can remember. In fact, I got my securities license in 1974, and lo and behold, they're still training people in that market the same way today they trained them when I was there, when I first got started. That you pointed out very graphically, very clearly, that we need to be looking for another method, another way, because times have changed. We're no longer in that situation. The history of the market is another thing that jumped out. People need to realize that there are cycles that move in and out, and we're in a particular cycle right now, a bull cycle, a bear market cycle right now. And that being the case, you need to know what to look for. And your book points out very clearly those two things, what to look for in the cycles and the history of where we're going, and why you need to find somebody that is up to date on the new methods instead of the same old that we've been hearing since, well, in my case, 1974. I did it for 25 years with another company.
Good point. Good point. Thank you for that. And we talk a lot about going from the G to the I, going from growth to income when it comes to your money. And we talk about why income is so important for every retiree, and also the right and wrong ways to get income. So as one of the initial groups of retirement income store franchisees, tell our viewers, what is it about the retirement income store in, let's say, the minute or so we have left in this segment that has you so excited, so fired up after being in the business for 40 some odd years about being a retirement income store representative?
It's new. It's something different. It's something that the people need to hear because, as I said a minute ago, they're hearing the same story and have been hearing the same story. It doesn't matter which firm you go to, one to the other, you're always going to hear the same story. Now they're going to have an opportunity to find out what is important in life down the road is income, absolutely income. Total return, as you point out in your book, total return is growth plus income. But that G in growth can turn into one of these. It can turn into a loss. And you need to know that, and you need to understand how you can at least avoid a great percentage of that and save yourself down the road. And that you will always have money for as long as you live. You don't have to worry about getting up in the morning and worrying out that, well, it's like going to school and finding out your parents have moved when you come home. You don't need to have that problem anymore. You know what's going to be there. You know it's going to be there for as long as you live. And that's what gets me excited, is I can tell my clients, we can put you in places where you will be able to guarantee your income down the road. And I'm talking about as close as you come to being the word guarantee. But you can at least know that the money is there, and it'll be there for as long as you live.
I love it, D. I love it. We need to take another break. Stay with us. We'll be back here in a moment on the Income Generation. Welcome back. We're talking here with D. Carter, a good friend of the Income Generation, author of the book, It's Now or Never, How to Enjoy Your Life and Not Let Your Investments Own You. So, D, I know there are some people watching the show, and I want to get away from talking about money for a minute, because some people watching the show who have written a book or want to write a book. How rewarding was your writing of your book to you on a personal level?
Wow, that's a great question. I've been urged to write a book by several people over the years because of my various backgrounds in music and in athletics and of course in our industry, but I didn't know how. And until I ran across Michelle, I never would have been able to do it. But it's very rewarding from the standpoint that I was able to share the things that have made me what I am and share those with people in the hopes that I could give them some direction, not only in their personal lives and what they do with their families and their churches and wherever they may be, but in their retirement planning and their income situation. So I kind of tried to blend all of those together into one deal. Very, very difficult. I will say this. It was like giving birth. It took me 9 months to write the book. So it took me that long and another 3 months to get it out. But
what was the hardest part about writing the book?
The hardest part was sitting down and doing it. I mean, I love to sit. I can sit and talk to you all day, but sitting down at a computer and just start hammering out the words. If it hadn't been for my editor, for Dan Gaynor, bless his heart, he would give me all the information that he taped it, sitting here in my office for 2 days. He would feed it back to me. I would sit down at night and write it. And then he would come back with an edited version, and I would send it back, and we played that back and forth game for about 6 months until I finally developed a style, and he started letting me work on my own a little bit more. But 90% or 95% of the book is me. The other 5% is Dan saying, this is the way you need to say it. But I got to tell you, if you don't have a good editor, if you don't have a good sponsor, someone behind you, a good publisher, it's going to be very difficult to get your word out.
Especially in our field, you tend to be very technical. You want to talk about financial stuff. You can have a very dry book. So it's really good to have a partner, a professional writer, editor of sorts who can help, and that's great. So 15 seconds. You told me one time you may have one more book in you. Can you give us a sneak preview under the cover in 15 seconds?
I never thought I'd write another book, but what I'm really looking at now is all the people that are coming in and asking me things and telling me what they've done wrong. I think it's time to write a book to people and say, here's about 25 ways you can really mess up a good retirement. So I'm working on that right now.
All the gotchas. The gotchas, that's great. And I'm sure somehow you're going to find a good Elvis tune, a title for that book that represents that theme. So Dee, thanks so much for being on the show. You stay with us. We'll be back here in a minute on The Income Generation.